Daily trading recap. Let's get after it. Pretty hard day on the P&L side. Biggest P&L loss day that I have had in my trading career thus far. I know there's going to be far worse days down the road ahead, but certainly still keeping it in perspective of, today was tough. And kind of glad at myself in reflection of not taking it so incredibly hard and just keeping myself a level head and not going so far off the rails because of the unfortunate circumstance I found myself in order to take this loss today. Had I stuck to my guns and kind of played it what would initially going into this one playing it stupidly on this MES trade, trying to trade the spread for volatility, of having to suffer or sit through a pretty hard unrealized P&L in order to get like a 1 to 0.5 risk reward on that of what I would have been looking for. But yeah, certainly would have worked out today. That would have fit my mold and ideally ended up what I was kind of trying to achieve. It's so unfortunate that just it is timing and everything of how it worked out, and I ended up getting stopped out by my broker for the limited amount of funds I had in my account at the time in order to be taking that much of an unrealized loss for that futures trade here today on SPY. Hard drop off in the morning from CPI numbers, biggest inflation, largest inflation since the past 40 years, just absolutely insane. Dunk in the market, not liking it at all, dropping 1.5%, everything we did yesterday, getting us back to that previous trading day's close, and then a perfect V bounce straight from the morning open all the way right back to that range, that 458 high area. Really no even turnaround or hint. You could call it a little hint of trying to reclaim back to VWAP here or just pull back any, but just no attempt whatsoever to even peel off or just put in any selling pressure off of that low. Even looking at, I'll just reference, got a sore throat here today too. Looking at ADD and tick, you can just see it opened terribly low. Everything was opening off of a huge gap down from that CPI news, all the big Teslas, the Mr. Softies, Google's, Facebook's, but just pushing back to green immediately, making a beautiful reclaim there, and then even tick on just a more shorter term time frame. Looking at today, starting off in the negative with lots of red candles, but just reclaiming that again as well, just pushing right back to that zero mark and eventually hitting 600 for the little peak there, and then transferring that into the afternoon session for how that played out on the day. But yeah, just an unfortunate situation today. I'll go over dollar volume quick first just for reference before I go more into that trade. 35 minutes after close here, NASDAQ, $293 billion volume, NYSE, $399 billion volume, OTC's $2.3 billion volume on the day. Only traded, I got one other little overnight short that I'll talk about later. But yeah, this was the big trader on the day, that MES kind of volatility spread trade that I was going towards, looking for only 0.1% both ways out of the open for what my data has been saying and for how I felt after coming off of yesterday, taking another loss there as well. I knew there was conviction for me that, especially after the CPI news, that gosh, I think the volatility is going to be there, and just that timing factor is still my big hitch with this strategy. The timing factor and just the when and where do I place my stops, because on days like this, when it reclaims an entire beyond a percentage point, it still has got a good chance. It still has got plenty enough of chance to end up turning red on the day. So when and where, and identifying how I can try to place stops on these spread style trades, because knowing I'm going to be collecting a profit either way to whichever way it goes if it does end up becoming a trend day. But then of just saying, when is that final pull the plug moment that, okay, this trade is definitely done, secure that loss, and factor that into the rest of the hit rate winners of this thing continuing to work out. And how do I not cut that hit rate short? Because on days like this where it's just spiking in your face immediately against you for the entire morning session and then continuing to press highs here, and it's just like, that is why I want to get so algorithmic with this trade and automatic with this trade, because to remove the emotion out of it completely, because then as we're pressing these levels, continuing to push new highs, then it becomes, I'm seeing that I'm trying to factor in that unrealized P&L in my head and going, this is just way too much. And, this is taking up however many spread trades before this, trying to factor that in and playing off of that emotions. I'm discontinuing and I'm cutting short what would be the hit rate on this style of trade and the little data that I'm collecting to actually take this style of trade. So big learning day today, and especially on the P&L side, just being able to swallow that, I think was, I don't know for some reason why the big numbers like that I don't want to, but I'm able to swallow them easier for some reason. It's almost just like if you take me immediately to the bottom, jeez, okay, we can't get any worse than that. We could, but it's pretty freaking sucky already. So I'm able to accept that a little bit easier versus this kind of wishy-washy $50, $75 loss areas. Like, oh, well, it could have been a little better here. And like just that little area in between that just kind of end up screwing me over for some reason, that when it ends up being bigger loss days like this, that I can function better, come out of the other side of this a little bit better. Just noting that in myself. But a day that I was correct. I'm not trying to be right, but it followed and matched the data and the trade that I was trying to go after. But it was just a matter of, I can't blame anybody else but myself, right? I had the thought a few days ago, I think even a little bit today, of just that flashing through my head of, well, maybe this style of trading requires me, in order to be taking such big unrealized losses to balance out the hit rate for these style of trades, that I do need to have a larger account but still be trading, with the 1 ES, 10 MES contract sizes, not going crazy, maybe scaling beyond that in the future. But in order to sustain through these losses and maintain the margin, having to have that size of account, and that's on me. I can't blame anybody else but myself. For my broker, I can shake my fist and just be angry that my broker stopped me out. I think it stopped me out even right at VWAP as it was scaling against me on the future side there for my short position that I was from that open price on the ES on the future side. But where was I going with that? Yeah, I can be angry with my broker, but at the end of the day, it's always going to be me that's responsible. And it is just a little bit more justification for me to see, sure enough, it was this volatile style of day that we produced plenty enough price action to the upside and plenty enough price action to the downside. It was just all about the timing factor between those from the open price that I'm talking about, of plenty of upside, plenty of downside. When and where does it come, and are you able to sustain the potential unrealized P&L loss? Are you able to follow along and put your faith in the hit rate versus your faith in trying to pick tops or understand that, or trying to say on this chart today in the morning session that, oh, this is a trend day, there is no way, no chance that it comes back red on the day, produces anything. But then sure enough, the market can stay absolutely illogical longer than you can stay solvent. This is a quote. Yeah. That was me today. Gosh. Yeah, that's all I can say. Big reflection day, I think it was just a necessary step to continue to push this. I'm not dismayed for this strategy going forward. I'm certainly going to still try tomorrow. If I don't think I would be able to take that spread trade actually, but I'm still going to follow along with it however much I can with the margin that I do have still left in there, the little bit that I do have left. But yeah, I'm going to continue going to apply this to the formula, to my methodology with this going forward, and understand that even on crazy days like this, that maybe it's a little bit more of a sentence to, maybe this was just a little bit more of a one-off day, that it's not always so directional one way or another. And hey, kind of just guess initially if it's going to be just volatile, chopping back one way or another. And then if it's not, then end up going directional because you've got plenty of space to the upside, just continue to follow that. And then a little bit later, as it's producing that sentiment, follow that direction the same way. Maybe it's that style of day, or maybe it's just days like this where just say, hey, don't even try to plan, because they can be one or the other of totally volatile, non-directional, or just totally one-off directional, get to lunchtime and then switch directions there, of just continuing to figure things out. I like to see that the VIX is continuing to rise here back above 23, 24-ish area. So good to see that. I do think that is going to be a factor going forward for this trade as well. I do not want to be seeing it sub 22-ish range, and I think that does have some amount of play in this strategy just for hit rate. And I haven't gotten any hard data on that as of yet, but going to go and do that a little bit more after this video here and break that down just for the data sake, to continue to see if there's any pattern or trend in that regard. But that is all I had. MITQ that I wanted to mention that I mentioned in the introduction. Second day play looking pretty nice. Similar float and similar little setup to KAVL that happened on that first day setup. I think this was the first day here. It had this move run up. Second day holding pretty nicely, and this was the third day. I just want to check to make sure. That first green day was the 3rd. Yeah, so that was whatever day that was. Was that a Thursday? Yeah, that was this day. First green day was this day. Very nice move into the close there, and then peeled off back to VWAP there in the after hours pre-market for the second day. Kind of a little rest day, a little bit of sell-off, but holding a base nicely, and then just kind of continuing that same ideology. Dojing, not too much volume or craziness in the after hours pre-market, building a little bit into the 3rd day. So that's a similar setup that I'm looking for on MITQ. I had a very nice little first green day dip and rip trade that Chris nailed on that first green day yesterday. So we'll see. I got a 165 on 50 shares. Not anything crazy, just kind of playing the trade sentiment that I think is there for this 3rd day tomorrow. Not producing any type of volatility or volume today in after hours here. So we'll see if it will hold or if it does a similar after hours to pre-market like it did this morning here. It just kind of peels off and fades and just has nothing going into tomorrow's open. But yeah, that's why I'm keeping it small as well. Should be short sale restricted, it looks like, tomorrow. So just keep an eye on it. That's all I got. I sincerely thank you guys for watching. Trying to keep it nice and short and simple and succinct for myself as I watch these videos back in reflection as well. But just focusing on the primary hit target areas and value of data that I'm speaking and just time itself as well. So I sincerely thank you guys for watching. We will catch you guys on the next one.